So hello and welcome. Today we have Yana here, Yana Shakiris, and she will be discussing, and I will be asking her a lot of questions about her new creative development program, which is very simple. You guys will all adore it, but we're going to kind of get into the background of it and some of her inspiration and why everybody has the artist within them, and maybe some tools that you can take away from this to discover your inner artist. So Yana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but how did you get started as an artist?
um, I always find this to be kind of an interesting question because I didn't always believe this, but I do believe that we're all co-creators. We're all innovators and artists from birth, and so I think just a lot of us fall out of practice. So it's an interesting question as to when I actually got started, but I guess I could be a little bit more accurate, probably 7 to 8 years ago. And what helped me get started or get back into the practice of being artistic and creative were yoga. That definitely helped me in the process in my journey. Reading and doing The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, who we love and adore and always talk about.
Yeah.
And then also healthy habits, like creating healthy habits, spending more time outdoors, eating good. I also quit drinking when I started painting. So clarity definitely helped. And then being around the right people. So with yoga, I would say that, it really taught me how to focus and set intentions, because I felt like before I was kind of lost. And so when I started practicing yoga, I was able to, bring my attention, my awareness to the art process or to the creative process. And also what I learned from yoga was, how to release unnecessary tension. And I found that when I first started, I was very tense. And so that was a really great tool for me when I first started to paint. And then The Artist's Way. I mean, I can go on and on all day about how great Julia Cameron is and all the beneficial tools from her book. But I would say just kind of healing the inner child, like the wounds of maybe not feeling that I was a good enough creative or whatever it is, or not feeling acknowledged as an artist, that The Artist's Way really helped me to kind of overcome those blockages and just kind of poor habits, poor communication that, I would have with myself in the creative process, like being too hard, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
we
we
talked
all do
about that.
it.
We talked about that too. It's like that, I think a lot of what blocks a lot of us is just like starting. It's like, oh my God, what if I'm not good enough? Like, like, oh, that's crap, or like, oh, I want that to be perfect. And so that's why I'm really intrigued by like how you started. And so I think like what you said, like yoga being a process and being easier on yourself, and then like doing that book, that the Artist's Way, that helps you uncover those blocks to achieve more of a flow state. So, and
Yeah.
the other thing that I know I've talked to you about, which I find just fascinating, is like, you know, um, you said, I think it was your sister that you kind of saw her journey a little bit with,
Yeah, I mean, my sister painted like since I can remember. She was always going to art classes up until all the way through high school. So she was definitely somebody that I looked up to, and I would say maybe that's what helped also initiate like me getting back into art, was because I was around it all the time. I was watched her paint and was so inspired, but was a little bit fearful myself, or maybe too judgmental of myself to even get started, like comparing myself, like, oh, she's so good, but yeah, she's also going to art classes and practicing all the time. And so I would say maybe that's why I didn't pursue it from an earlier age, was just because of my own doubt and insecurities. And so yeah, yoga, doing The Artist's Way, uncovering these blocks that kind of like held me back from that inner kind of notion that, like, the knowing of I want to create, I want to either paint something or make something, and overcoming that hurdle of, because yeah, starting is the hardest part of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's almost like running. It's like if you just kind of keep doing a couple miles a week or you keep into it, it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to keep going. And that's the
Hmm.
same with exercise. As soon as you stop, you lose that momentum. And so, like,
Yeah.
I've seen you with your daily habits. It's like, I know there was a space that we were, just walking together, but then you're like, okay, I'm going to carve out this time to create. And then from there, you skyrocketed with your creativity. So I think that was really
Yeah.
cool. So along those lines is how did you personally develop that creative awareness in other ways?
Um, I mean, I think practice, anything that you practice over and over again, you slowly become better at it. And, aside from the couple art classes that I took in college, I would say majority of my development has taken place from like just trial and error, doing it and then just changing whatever it is that needed to be changed. But I would say the best advice that I got was actually from on creativity and painting was from my friend Brian about 7 or 8 years ago. I went to his art show in Breckenridge and he I was just so inspired by his work. And I said, do you have any advice? I'm an amateur artist. I want to get started. Where do I start? And he said, just keep painting. I said, okay, well, that seems like too simple of advice, but I took it, and I did that. I kept painting. And, each time I painted, I learned something different from what I had created. I was able to kind of develop a self-critique where, if I was to do this again, how would I do it differently? Or what am I actually trying to communicate in this piece? And so I would say, yeah, development comes from practice. And I think also from taking care of yourself, I
Yeah.
don't think I would have been able to do this had I done the work that we've been talking about through the
Yeah.
artist way and becoming these kind of challenges to help strengthen that confidence. Because I think that's kind of, even to say I'm an artist, that took a long time to
Yeah.
build up the confidence to say it's like, am I an artist? What qualifies me as an artist? And so developing that self-worth and that self-confidence, it's like, you know what? I'm an artist because this is what I love to do. And this is like what I want to keep doing. So yeah, practice.
Practice. And then the other thing I think is really interesting is the idea, and we've talked about this before, is the quantity, not quality at first, especially for me kind of getting back into art, is just doing the work every day.
Yeah,
Even I
absolutely.
think even like who's Stephen King? I think he's like, I just write every single day 1,000 words, and then
Yeah.
eventually it comes out to a book in the long run. But
Well, it's the same thing with morning pages from the
yeah,
artist way. You do it every single day, and you might not necessarily want to do it every single morning or look forward to doing it. But if you make it into a habit and designate the time with patience, and that's the other thing is
that's
being
right.
patient. Because, I learned from yoga that some of the most beautiful like things just take time to really blossom, and you have to be patient with seeing your work develop over time. There's definitely things that I'm creating now that I don't think 7, 8 years ago I would have imagined myself doing. We've talked about the self-portrait challenge that I did, and I wish I could show you right now the first picture in comparison to day 17 I think I went up to. But that's it's part of being patient and persistent, and wanting to develop your skill, whatever that is.
And I think the other thing is that you know, with even you developing this program, which is awesome, it's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you want to, inspire your inner artist, there's resources out there.
Hmm.
There's, like you said, like there's books, there's different resources that you can go in and find some guidance to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not like
Yep.
you're alone in your journey.
Or, even YouTube. I'll say
Yeah.
that maybe YouTube and even Instagram. I started adding or like researching things that I had interest in, or other artists that were inspiring to me, and just watching what they were doing. I was like, oh, okay, like well, I could, use this tool that they're providing. Because a lot of, like, if you see a lot of Instagram pages, they'll have like different techniques and like different
Yeah.
ways to shade or create texture, whatever it is. And so, yeah, there's tools everywhere. But I think that the greatest tool is first like unlocking, because this needs to flow. I mean, there needs to be
Yeah.
passion, there needs to be excitement about it, or, encouragement also. I think that's the biggest part, is having some sort of encouragement. And that's why I like the artist way, is that she kind of helps you to get rid of all these extra things that kind of get in the way from you finding your flow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's a couple other things that I wanted to ask you because your work is so poignant. It's so, I find it to be fascinating because a couple, I think it was, you said one of your first pieces that I have, and it's the ocean and it's like whales. And then you've also done a skate deck for me before with waves on it. And then I'll
Yeah.
also see some of your other paintings where they're so like indigenous inspired. And then also I know you were in Hawaii a lot and India. So you've gotten all these like, what's your tie? It seems like you have this really cool eye. For one, you can paint people, which is, I think, amazing. Um, so that probably helped with the portrait challenge. But like, I know there's one picture of a woman, and it's just her captivation, and her eyes are so strong. The whole
Yeah.
whole idea. And so I just wanted to talk about just a little bit of what's inspired you, like literally.
Well, I have to say that when I picked up the paintbrush like 8 years ago now, I was undergoing a lot of like changes in my life. I just felt like I kind of hit rock bottom with a lot of things. I was just not happy with myself. I had a snowboarding accident. I got dumped, like all this stuff. Everything that could possibly go wrong, like went wrong. And I honestly, like, I was just at that moment in time, I was so ready to detach myself from everything and just take care of myself. And that's where, yoga came in. I started practicing yoga a lot, and um, quit drinking. So I was really at home a lot as well. And my friend inspired me to have an art show. So I ended up having like 2 months where I had to grade at least 10 pieces. I was freaking out, but I got it done. And it
I,
was through like,
I remember that time, but I do want to just stop you for just a second because I do want you to say like you had you put yourself out there with, is it, you showed him a sketchbook? You showed him
yeah,
a sketchbook and
yeah. So I went to
he
my
said like,
friend's art show,
yeah.
and I was like, I would love to do an art. My friend's like, go talk to the director of the show. And I was like, no. I'm like, what am I going to say? He's like, say you want to do an art show. I said, okay. It's for raw artists. And so I come up, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in doing an art show in the future. And he's like, great, I'd like to see your work. And I had like a couple sketches, and I showed him my sketches. He's like, great, we'll have you on in 2 months. I'm like, I don't even have a portfolio or anything. He's like, you'll be able to do it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? And really, I mean, that's like, it pushed me to just like block up and get behind the canvas and just create. And what was inspiring me a lot during that time was my own personal transformation. And I don't know how else to say it, but it's like the self-realization that you experience through yoga or other practices, just seeing myself beyond just like the physical me, just kind of connecting with spirit, with higher realms through the practice. I really opened myself up to the possibility of connecting with all of existence. And so that's why I feel like my work is so broad, because some of it comes from personal experiences, some of it comes through like visions or through meditation that I've had, and some of it just comes in like download forms. And so I would say a lot of my work is a reflection through my own like spiritual journey, and just things that I've kind of learned along the way, especially Eastern philosophy, like all the Eastern teachings um, through yoga, through Tao, even Reiki, and living in Hawaii. And I really try to incorporate those teachings into my work, because I feel like those are the teachings that help me transform as an individual, that help me to kind of discover I don't want to say the highest version of myself, but just like a better version, a version that I've always wanted to be. But like all these practices helped me to see that. And so I try to kind of share a little bit of each of those teachings through my work.
Can you,
And incorporate also, my
yeah,
surroundings as well through my
yeah.
travel. It
Can you
helps
talk a
too.
little bit about your latest work that you just finished?
The piece that I did, yes.
The tiger, well, I don't know exactly what it means, but there's a tiger and a bird and a
Yes.
lifeline.
So, okay, so the title of the piece is called Lokakatha. So in Sanskrit or Hindu, I should say, it's like a folk tale or a fairy tale. And so this is one of those examples. I had a vision over a year ago of this tiger in a boat and an egret flying off the deck. And I was like, and they were in this really cool building with water underneath. And I was like, well, this is interesting. So I drew it up and I, took notes. I was like, I don't know what this message is all about. And I just put it off to the side. And then, a year and a half later, I go to India and I meet my good friend Summer in Rajasthan, and he shows me the city and kind of takes me on his own, like, I say that he was my teacher. He took me on a journey to help me to realize my passion, which is art. I just needed to be confirmed about it. But the experiences that we had on that journey were really reflective in what I had drawn up. And then when I got back, I realized that a lot of this stuff had aligned. And so I started to make more variations, like more drafts of this little sketch that I did. And then I started painting it back in April, and I finally finished it this month.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah.
gorgeous. It's so cool. But I think, this is one of my other questions because I'm a big, how do we do things? And
Yeah.
it's cool to hear that you had that sketch like ages ago and then you learned things and then you went back to it and it's like, oh, I can actually make something out of it because, you always think you have to have the whole picture and then do things. But you
No,
actually,
you don't. And I mean, I learned that from, like working with you and I working together so
yeah,
many times we're just, let's just get it out, let's write
yeah,
it out, all of our ideas. It doesn't mean that these are the ones that we're going to do or not do. But as long as you get it out, at least, you could return back to it because you're like, what was that thing that I thought about? And you could expand on it. And I think that's kind of like the beauty of creating is that you can continuously expand on whatever project you take on.
yeah. So, moving moving along. I want to talk. I don't want to get you too far off. We'll have many
Yeah.
more interviews about this and artists and creativity. But specifically, I want to talk the next few minutes about your actual program that you created and how not only what it is, because I love it, it's 3 weeks online, free, all that cool
Mhm.
stuff, but like how it will, who it will help and how it will help. So just kind of dive into that a little bit and just, yeah, let us know.
So the Rattle is a program that I developed a couple months ago. It's a 3-week, really simple program that involves you going out to nature. You observe patterns in nature, then you create your own patterns with nature, and then you learn how to kind of shape shift the patterns that you create and then transform that into your personal habits. So observing your personal patterns and being able to transform it. It seems maybe a little bit heavier than it needs to be, but it's really playful. And so kind of the backstory behind the Rattle is that it's all kind of a collective of lessons and techniques that I picked up from doing the artist way. So with the artist way, you have to go on your artist date once a week. And through these artist dates, I started taking myself out into nature and really dedicating like, okay, I'm going to spend 1 hour sitting in one spot, observing different things. And through this process, I realized that my creativity levels kind of increased. I was, started to become more inspired to maybe draw nature or to draw a specific animal, whatever it was. And so I realized that this process of going outside and sitting with nature and observing the patterns, like really was beneficial. So the first week, this is kind of what the program focuses on, is getting out there and spending some time in nature, jotting down some
Yeah.
notes, some drawings, and
And
kind of
also
playing around
being
with what
really
you collect.
present.
Yes, it's all about being present and also playful. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing that I want people to get out of this program, is to increase their time to play, because there is a balance between work and play. You do need both, but I feel like for some reason in this time of our life, people are just a little bit too serious, either one direction or the other direction. And I feel like what we need right now is just to kind of spend a little bit time of simplifying, just, maybe an hour out of the day of doing something that is not serious, that is playful, just kind of tapping into your inner child and allowing yourself to really to play and explore, and seeing how incorporating that in your life will actually help you to kind of fulfill other tasks throughout your day in a fun and a creative way. So bringing the outdoors indoors.
Yeah, I think it's
So,
great. And I also feel like I like really the fact that you also with the program, it's like you help us see patterns and habits and then change the patterns and habits too. But it's first about witnessing.
yes.
It's a lot like the Amplify program, like we talked
Yeah.
about. They're very similar.
Yeah.
Yours obviously based a lot on the creative development, and mine based on the physical and mental development. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So in the last few minutes, I think the rattle, personally, I think the rattle is perfect for just about I mean, it's perfect for everybody, really, especially like really, I know we talked about it in my last program, because in my Amplify program, we do morning pages and a little bit of stimulating creativity, but this is a great asset to developing your creativity in a very structured way. So I think
Hmm.
it benefits that creativity, the creativity patterns and habits in order to create the artist within, which we all
Yeah,
have.
and I think one of the, I do want to add this because, sometimes when we think about creativity, we automatically think of, that you have to be painting or drawing or something like this. When I say creativity, I say that you can be creative in any of your tasks, like changing the way you make your bed, changing the way you make your dinner, maybe create a new dish or whatever it is, or um, even your morning routine, like being able to play around with it. One of the things that I did for a while was I wrote with my left hand just to see like what kind of shifts would take place, if I would be open to learning in a different way, applying it elsewhere. And so that's what I mean by creativity, is that it doesn't have to be, you know,
Painting.
paintbrush or anything
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
That,
And
you
I
could
think,
benefit
yeah,
from doing this, just to, I don't know, make your day more enjoyable and more
yeah.
playful.
And
Yeah.
discovering things, like if you used to like to ice skate, or you really did like accounting, or you did, you always wanted to be a graphic designer, like starting to
Yeah,
explore those different areas. So
exactly. Reconnecting with your passion.
reconnecting with your passion, I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
this is a great tool for it. So I know it's free. So
It
where
is
can
free.
we how can people contact you, follow you, get a hold of you?
So I think the best way, if you have any questions about the program or want to do it, give me an email. My email is iamcreation@gmail.com, and it's spelled EYEAM and then creation@gmail.com. So I would say that's the best way to contact. You could also check out my Instagram page if you have Instagram. It's also I am creation, at I am creation. So
And then you can also
those
see
are the
the new painting, your work.
Hmm?
Yeah, all your paintings are up on Instagram as well. The new
Yeah,
paintings.
or you could also go on my website.
Oh yeah, on the website
Yep.
as
So
well.
my Instagram has a lot of my work, and then also my website, which is iamcreation.com, has my paintings too. So, and
Yeah.
my shirts as
And the
well,
shirt and
and
all
hats.
of her stuff. So if you want to get anything of
Yeah.
Yana's, which is gorgeous, And also stay tuned because Yana and I have more online programs coming to you, and we'll be doing more webinars. And next week, we will be talking about the power of collaboration and the power of community.
Yes.
And also, like, you know, Yana and I are so inspired by this because, you know, obviously we're collaborating, and we found there are awesome ways to collaborate, and there's other ways to collaborate. So we're going to talk about the positive and negatives of collaboration and what you want to look for and how it can help everybody. So that's going to be exciting as well. So
yeah,
join us next week. Thank you so much.